Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to just give it probably a minute or two to make sure that we get a couple on, and we will go ahead and kick off this webinar in just a few minutes. So stay tuned. Okay, I think we'll give it just one more minute and then we'll go ahead and get started. It looks like we do have quite a few people on, so welcome. Give it one more minute and I think we'll get started. Okay. All right, welcome everybody. My name is Jackie McKnight. I am the Director of Marketing, Communications, and Community Relations with Your Better Business Bureau here in Connecticut. I'd like to welcome you all today to this iteration of our Building Better Business webinar series, a series we developed to help you and help businesses throughout our state grow and especially in this challenging time, really get out front of issues that are definitely affecting businesses throughout the state, and we want to help you be successful and to not only survive but thrive through this time. Today's webinar is going to be about hiring strategies to save time and money, and we welcome Zilla Ray. Zilla Ray is with an accredited business here in Connecticut called Chateau Rouge, and they focus a lot on human resources and issues that in the human resource sector that affect business, and they're always there as a resource for you. So Zilla Ray will impart some really important knowledge to you today. She will answer questions. There will be a Q&A at the end, so feel free at any time throughout the webinar to enter your questions in the questions box in your control panel there. And she will do her best to answer those questions at the end, and if she doesn't have the answer, she will definitely get it for you. Also, in terms of housekeeping, there are two handouts in the handouts tab on your control panel. One of them is a PDF on hiring strategies that you can access and use as reference. And the other is a quick reference sheet that they've put together that can help you. So you can go there and download those documents. Also to note, this webinar is being recorded, so we will provide each of you with the recording as well as those documents in a follow-up email after the webinar. You can also access any of our Building Better Business webinar series webinars on our YouTube channel, which we will also provide to you in that follow-up email. So we're excited to welcome you, Zilla Ray, and at this point, I am going to turn it over to you and take it away.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jackie. I do appreciate it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the webinar. Like Jackie said, I'm Zilla Ray Garcia. I am the finance manager for Chateau Rouge, Inc. We are a management consulting firm. We do focus on HR. Glad that everybody is here today. Give me just one moment. Okay. So like Jackie had mentioned, we will be emailing you the recording and the slides within 24 hours. We do have 2 poll questions that we will have you guys answer, and also Q&A at the end. All right. All right, so hiring strategies. You know, with hiring strategies, even the most experienced managers and human resources personnel can still have difficulty finding and hiring the perfect candidate for any open position. You know, especially in these times, it has been, you know, a struggle to find people who fit, you know, your specific needs. It can also be hard to determine whether or not if they are a right fit for the job or work well with the rest of the team. By learning to utilize the information we have to find the best candidates and reviewing not only the job requirements, but also, you know, each candidate's attributes, you can hire the best people for your company. Defining and knowing the position. Before you can even begin to hire an employee, you have to know what you're hiring them for. What is it that you're exactly looking for? You must first know what the position calls for and what type of person you're looking for in terms of that job. During these interviews, you will need to be able to define and describe to the potential employees so that they're not surprised or left in the dark. Being prepared can also prepare the employee as well. I think a bit of transparency in the sense is great in terms of knowing the position in order to be able to walk your potential employee through a day-to-day, or you know what a normal week would look like in terms of, are they able to handle that type of workload, or is it the type of work that they're trying to look for. I think, you know, a bit of transparency definitely assists in that, in order for you to be able to find the right person in terms of the position that you're trying to fill. And I think overall that will help um, make everything run smoothly. Knowing your position. Um, when preparing to hire for a new employee, your first steps should be to know what position you intend to hire them for. I mean, think about it. When you go and buy tires for a car, you kind of need to know the make and model in order to make sure that you're getting the correct size. That's also something that you can apply in terms of getting the correct person for the position. One way is to learn what type of person worked in that position previously before it became open, and what type of performance did they have? Were they overachieving? Were they underperforming? And that's why you're searching. I think looking for somebody that's either the same, if they were a, you know, overall top performer, or if the team dynamic needs somebody that is a little bit different than that person that had just previously left that position. These are key in determining what kind of person you'll need to find next for that job. Now, if the position is newly created, speak with the department heads and draw from them the type of person that you're looking for in an ideal setting for this newly created position. This research will definitely get a better idea of what the job entails and what skill sets will be needed, which can definitely help form a more accurate job description to share with potential candidates. Points that would definitely help determine in knowing the position are, what does this position actually require? What type of tasks, what type of skills would be needed? How did the previous employee handle these particular skills and positions? Was there certain areas that they were lacking or certain areas where, they were extremely successful? I would definitely look into seeing if the potential employee has had this position before or something similar to it, or if they don't have specific titles of previously held positions, I would definitely look into what skills can they apply in terms of getting this position that you're trying to fulfill. Needing analysis. Hiring an employee can definitely be a great asset to the company. When you have a new position to fill, it is a good opportunity to review your company's organizational needs and if there are any gaps or overfilled areas, so to say. Definitely determining if you need the usual one person to fulfill this job, or possibly considering that workload was a bit much for one person to handle and consider hiring multiple people in order to fill each specific role. Definitely some things to consider when looking at this position and its surroundings. What kind of needs does this job fulfill for the organization? Um, Definitely look into what key responsibilities need to be included when creating the job description for this position, because you want a candidate that will help with the organization and succeed and thrive within this new opening. You also might want to consider reviewing any holes and what is specifically needed to fill them. Sometimes we might be able to fill the position by altering a role instead of established in an already established company, but if you can't, you definitely want to consider proceeding with creating a job description post for outside job seekers as well. Job analysis is a process used by managers and recruiters to collect information about the position, including the required duties, skills, and responsibilities. Many of these details are key aspects that can make up a job description. Obviously, we're going to start off with the job title, since it is the headliner for the job and kind of give the applicant the idea of what it may or may not include. Titles such as customer service representative or business accountant can give hints as to what the job entails, but it also can leave a bit of room for additional job titles and or duties. The important thing to remember is that a job analysis focuses on the job itself, not the person working or soon to be working with. Oftentimes, we tend to forget we are collecting information about an opening in the company since we spend so much time conducting questionnaires and surveys from the people within the company. The job analysis is supposed to help the hiring personnel determine a position's readiness to be fulfilled and what exactly is needed to accomplish that. In terms of a job analysis, some common tasks would be is reviewing necessary job responsibilities, determining the required duties and tasks of this position that you're looking to fulfill, and then researching similar job postings in and outside of the company, and then deciding how to market that position effectively. Now, after we've completed the job analysis, many tasks and duties are defined and can further be analyzed for the perfect employee candidate. A task analysis is similar to a job analysis, but this process breaks down how a task is completed and what materials are necessary in doing so. This can include basic task activities such as process and materials and expand all the way to determining task length, difficulty, energy, or other unique characteristics of the position. Once the task analysis is gathered, the information can be helpful during the development of personnel criteria and employee training. Most of the time, the best way to complete a task analysis is to work with the employee in that position and the surrounding peers to observe their actions and procedures. These people are the best way to obtain firsthand information on what it is or isn't performed on the job. Something else to consider if this job isn't already available or is being newly created, then research outside of the company or agencies with similar positions can be a better resource. Developing a hiring strategy may seem a little extreme, but it is a helpful tool when preparing to hire a new employee. When an opening becomes available that you will need to fill, there are often several steps to take and follow in order to obtain the best workers. First and foremost, you can't hire an employee to your team if you don't know anything about your own company. Having that adequate staff can make a difference in how your company performs and affects its growth. So when preparing to search for ways to fill an open position, take a minute to analyze your company, how it's changed or is changing, or any future projections. Now, based on your company's history, predict any changes or growth surges ahead of time, which can determine what kind of staffing needs you will have. Will you need more than one person for now? Maybe you only need someone for a short amount of time in order to transition for the future. Knowing this information before beginning the candidate search can reduce the amount of stress and headaches that you will have later. Some things you want to consider in terms of analysis. What ways will the company grow more in the future? Will I need to downsize this position or department in the future? Will this still be considered productive or eventually obsolete as we go forward? Do I need one person or more? Will this position work in 6 months, in a year, in 10 years? Those are some things to consider in terms of short-term versus long-term goals of your company. Money is a large driving force behind job descriptions and finding new employees. While many candidates may love their job they're coming into, the pay and salary will usually be a major deciding factor. As a hiring manager or a recruiter, it is important to know the salary range the position offers and what kind of compensation the new employee will be worthy of. Many companies offer higher starting salaries for employees with more skills or with cross-training abilities, which can help draw in qualified candidates. Research the history of the position and the department it is in to view what kind of salary range has been issued for previous employees. Is this range still suitable for your next employee? Will you need to decrease it or increase that amount? Also look into similar positions offered at companies to see if they are offering a similar range or if they differ. And how so? Are the tasks a little bit different? Is the title the same, but the tasks are different? What is it that Why is there a difference in pay between your company and someone else's? Now remember, the point is not to beat their price, so to speak, but you want to ensure your company is fair and staying competitive with other businesses. Because you don't want to lowball yourself, because then lowballing will then cause everybody else to lowball, and that doesn't help anybody. Now, when looking in to see a potential employee for a position, you definitely want to take a look at your top performers. Every company has top performers that often outshine the rest of the team. These employees often show great initiative and strong work ethic, which would make them an asset to almost any company. Top performers are generally hard workers with great qualities, such as being on time, finishing work on time, and even helping other employees with their work. You definitely want to observe your employees and designate which one of them you consider as a top performer in that department. Then you want to determine what makes these top performers so great, why it works for the company. What skills do they possess in terms of getting them to the top? What actions do they normally take? Do they go above and beyond, or are they extremely efficient in getting their tasks completed? What other qualities are you noticing that each top performer has? Because it's not like there's a checklist and they all fit the same criteria, but there is something unique about each individual that gets them to the top. When hiring a position that is open, try to pull candidates that either can mimic or adopt some of these characteristics once they join the organization. Base your strategy on the goal of hiring new employees that can come into work and learn to adopt some of the better qualities and become one of your top performers. Being prepared is key for productivity. Productivity can be affected when a position is open, leaving more work for other employees to take on along with regular duties. You don't want to overload your current employees because you don't also want to drive them away. So while we can't predict when a spot will open, we can prepare ourselves for when it does happen. If you try to fill a spot in a hurry, you may not find the best person for the job and will more likely have to repeat the process if the employee doesn't work out. While every company should develop a standard hiring strategy, an emergency hiring strategy is also highly recommended as well. An emergency hiring plan consists of steps and process to follow when a position to be filled in a hurry, but still can assure the right person is hired. You definitely want to partner with your other managers, gather information about the positions and what kind of person they would need to fill them. Work together to build a process that can streamline the hiring process and find qualified candidates, even in a pinch. You definitely want to consider building strategies for using current employees temporarily, for example, cross-training, job sharing, etc., or considering partnering with a staffing or recruitment agencies as well if you're in a pinch. Appealing to great candidates. One of the first steps to finding great employees is determining what type of person will fit into the new position and the company. But finding the right way to appeal to candidates can be difficult if not done properly. The key is to reach out locally as well as outside the region to reach a range of people in a range of talent. Advertising where your potential candidates visit is key. When planning on advertising, it is important to put your company name where you want to get your candidates' attention. Industry-specific sites are an ideal place to post job openings or opportunities to hand in resumes. These sites can appeal to candidates currently looking for work or those simply interested in particular type of industry and line of work. Online job websites are a large source for job seekers in this current day, which makes them a great place to advertise and seek for new candidates. In print, trade magazines appeal to a large group of magazine buyers and often cater to a focused group of job seekers. Although newspapers are decreasing in popularity and in readers, advertising with posters or newsletter articles are also a great place to start looking for new recruits, especially since college students and graduates will also be looking for work. Increasing exposure to the growing public will increase chances of finding more candidates and increasing company exposure. Hey, Jackie, could we put up one of the poll questions?
Absolutely. I'll pop that up right
Thank
now.
you. I'll give you guys a minute to look over that question. All right. Develop corporate citizenship. Developing a corporate citizenship is a phrase used to describe the process of a corporation working together to share responsibility and initiatives. You may also have heard it as a corporate social responsibility, which can cover a wide range of services, processes, including charity works, business plans, and office procedures. Developing a corporate citizenship among employees helps them become engaged with each other and hold each other accountable for their own actions. When a company utilizes this citizenship, it helps draw in talent and potential candidates, since it can make employees feel like they are a part of a team and feel better about working with each other. Utilizing corporate citizenship can also help retain current employees because employees feel like they are part of a family and feel supported by the rest of their team, especially when a problem can arise. Any company knows that if the employees do not feel as if they are treated fairly and respected, they will leave or not put in 100% of the effort that they should or can. Happy employees become loyal employees. However, it is important to treat new hires as well as the candidates you choose not to hire with respect. Any candidate who comes into contact with the company, whether by interview, resume, a simple phone call, somebody you meet on the street and decide to hand them your business card, that is not treated respectfully, could not only lose interest in your company, but can share their mistreatment and cause other candidates to lose interest as well. Word of mouth is definitely something you want to take into consideration, because that, especially with the internet and people being able to post things on, sites such as Yelp or Facebook, it can make or break certain situations. Be honest with everyone you choose not to hire and offer advice and feedback before letting them go. Keep job seekers up to date and notified of interview processes and potential open positions. Mind you, you don't have to kiss the feet of every candidate you meet just to make them happy, but it is always definitely a good practice to be nice and treat them with respect. They will return the favor. I think for me, what I appreciated in a interview once was that I wasn't hired at the company, but what I did appreciate is that the two people that were interviewing me gave me great feedback as to why I wasn't a good candidate. So that's something to also think about. Filtering your applicants to interview. Now that we've gone through this huge process of finding the job descriptions and, putting the ads up through different websites, now you have to go through all of these different applicants. It is important to determine which ones you want to interview and which ones that you don't. This filtering process will allow you to see which candidates deserve that initial phone interview in order to move on through, or if you're just going directly straight through the personal interview based on their skills and attributes before removing the ones that you don't. All candidates submit a resume along with an application, but in terms of a cover letter, they tend to be forgotten. And it is an important way to introduce who you are that isn't in bullet points in terms of a resume. This allows them to use their own voice and show their personality. And sometimes it shows if the candidate has rushed through the letter or if they have taken time to put themselves out there. It can also show if they've possibly forgotten to include information, which can sometimes give you doubt, but should still be looked into. As a hiring manager, it can be annoying to receive countless resumes sent to an email box or through the mail without a cover letter or adequate contact information. More companies are putting more stress on a good cover letter, so feel free to jump on that bandwagon. If a candidate neglects the cover letter, especially when you request they send one, it should send up a red flag right away. Was this person in a hurry? Are they just mass submitting resumes in hopes of, scoring a interview anywhere? Or are they too lazy to write one? Do they know how to write one? That's also something to take into consideration. Remember, no cover letter equals no interview. Many employees do not realize the importance of a well thought out and tailored resume. But something to consider is a resume is one of the first impressions you will get from the person along with their cover letter. When reviewing or grading your resumes, check for easy readability and flow on the document. Also take into consideration, are there any typos, grammatical errors? Since it can look very unprofessional, especially with Word or, most systems allow for spell check. And it also can show it may not reflect on that candidate very well either. Does this candidate's resume match the position they are applying for? If the position is for, let's say, a sales clerk, are they giving you qualifications from their accounting position? The candidate usually lists an array of jobs and skill sets they possess, but don't let it overwhelm you or fool you into thinking they are perfect either. Remember what the position calls for, tasks, duties, and responsibilities, and then review the resume for the key needs. If they display these characteristics in plain sight, it is definitely a good indication to extend an interview. So sadly, the internet is forever and it cannot hide our true selves sometimes. Many job seekers tend to forget that this when they go out into the working world and go looking for employment. Google will definitely allow you to search someone's name and information. Be warned though, that while it is a good source of information, it can give you the good, the bad, and even the ugly. Some candidates can have some distasteful photos from parties years ago that they didn't realize they put on social media, or events, which can, make a hiring manager think twice of their ability to be able to come to work and focus, depending on their, after work. But others can simply lack in any kind of internet presence, such as not having any social media, blogging, sites like that. But it also can show, in terms of LinkedIn, it can show evidence of past awards, a professional Twitter account, or photos from a volunteer project. So there are pros and cons to searching for a potential employee through the internet. Since you never know what a search will produce, don't let it be a deciding factor when it comes to hiring that person. Use it as a tool to engage what kind of personality they may or may not have in terms of work and what kind of presence they have online as well. Initial phone interviews. Now, I know that everybody doesn't do a phone interview. For our company, I personally like the initial phone interview since it is definitely a great way to get a live first impression outside of the cover letter and the resume for a candidate. It definitely saves time in reducing the number coming in and going out of the office, because it also helps determine if the potential employee is interested. For example, we were conducting phone interviews for a client who was looking for a social media manager. And one of the specific questions that our client had for the potential employees was what type of scheduling systems that they used in terms of making sure that the social media posts were being posted in a timely manner. I had a potential employee that she was throwing out so many different scheduling systems, and all I asked is which ones she used, but she went in depth in terms of being able to tell me why she liked this one, why she doesn't like this, basically the pros and cons to all of it. Whereas one of my coworkers had interviewed somebody else and she needed examples of type of scheduling systems and she had not heard of any of them. The phone interview is great in terms of making sure that they know what they're going into before the interview, because that also can definitely weed out anybody that was just looking for jobs late at night and just submitting their resumes everywhere, because we've had that as well, where we'll call on behalf of a client, and when we're talking to that person who had submitted their application, They have no idea what job that was for. They need more information on, what the position was exactly that they were hiring. And those are also, a bit of red flags in the sense that, okay, this person wasn't totally interested. They saw something, maybe they'd apply for it and see it wasn't something that they further looked into. The interview process, which we all know and love. So now that we've sent out those job descriptions and received tons of resumes, even had some of the few phone interviews, it's now time to do a face-to-face, or especially with everything going on, face-to-faces through Zoom or Teams. And these interviews are a classic way for hiring managers to meet with candidates and to get to know their skills and qualifications. They allow the employer and applicant to meet and discuss the position in depth and kind of get a feel for each other. Because, somebody might look great on paper, but you also want to make sure that there is a positive dynamic between the two, especially if they're going to be working closely together. What I like in interviews is getting to know a little bit about each other, kind of having a bit of small talk and making sure that everybody's comfortable, because everybody's nervous when they go into an interview. You don't know who it is that you're going to be seeing, what they're like. Are your personalities going to work out? Are they too stiff? Are they too free flowing? You want everybody to be comfortable, because I think a lot of the times with potential employees being so nervous, sometimes the best them doesn't always show because that nervousness tends to take over. So I know a lot of people enjoy doing one-on-one interviews, which are great. And then some people do them in groups or kind of do a panel of interviews. I prefer panels. I think they're nice in terms of being able to kind of get a feel of one person, because I could see somebody one way and somebody else can see that same person another way, and it's nice to see different perspectives in terms of that interview. When you give them a little bit of small talk in the beginning, you definitely don't want to say anything too personal, because that also might deter them and kind of put you in a different light in their eyes. But you definitely want to, kind of get to know them, get to see what type of person they are. Just a hint outside of work. Sometimes small talk definitely helps lead in to the interview in terms of discussing the position you're hiring, and what you're looking for overall. Again, I like panels. So most interviewers decide to use a panel when interviewing open positions. Interview panels generally consist of a lead interviewer with 2 or 3 or secondary panels. It's nice with panels because everybody has a series of questions that they want to ask. And, based off of those responses, it's always free flowing, because that person can ask a question. Everybody will write down the response that they heard from the potential employee. And then, there's just brief moments of silence, and then you're on to the next person. And it's not just one focus. You kind of get a different perspective with questions in terms of what the position is looking for. Definitely at the end of the interview, you want to ask the panelists to rate the applicant and compare their notes and responses. Are they similar around the board, or are they different? Did somebody see or hear something that the potential employee said that put them above other potential applicants. It's nice to be able to get other people's perspectives in terms of that type of interview panel. Normally, outside of COVID, obviously, a lot of these interviews take place in a small office where the applicant is set aside, asks a series of questions, then the applicant leaves without knowing much more about the job, unless they ask or are given the opportunity to ask questions that need either clarification or just weren't, given that information during the interview. A better tactic for our interview is to match it to the job that the applicant is coming in. I mean, if possible, bring the environment to the interview, such as taking a tour throughout the facility or holding the interview in the actual office or work area of that position, so they can kind of feel that environment that they're going to be working in. Consider when the applicant arrives, monitor how they are dressed and if it matches for the position. Many applicants know to dress nice for an interview, but do they appear overdressed or underdressed? Is their attire fitting for the company? Applicants know what kind of job they are coming in for, so try to make the interview match the position and let the candidate see further into it. Interview questions can vary, especially depending on what you're looking for in an applicant. These questions are generally meant to address personal attributes, questions about abilities, and even questions about behavioral qualities. Open-ended questions often offer in-depth answers, while hypothetical questions can help show the applicant's critical thinking skills as well. You definitely want to stress interview questions that are designed to determine how a person reacts under stress or increased pressure, and usually involve rapid fire questions with an expectation for a quick response. Just remember that certain questions cannot be asked in an interview, including questions related to age, marital status, religion, or sexual preferences. These questions impose too much bias and are extremely personal, so they should definitely never be asked to an applicant. The STAR method, which is on your screen here, is a great way to ask and answer questions based on the candidate's resume. It normally asks for the concise details about their previous work and outlines exactly what they did in their previous jobs and duties. It definitely gives more clarification if there is any. Wrapping up an interview. As an interview comes to an end, ensure that things are professionally wrapped up before parting ways. Before the applicant leaves, definitely ask them if they have any questions for you and if there was anything that was not covered in the interview. You definitely want to take note if they do ask questions, because they should. I think in terms of an interview, there's always something that you can ask. There's always something that potential applicant may need clarification, or if they can feel if the interview did not go well, what could they have done or what can they improve on is definitely something to consider as well. Always be truthful with them about what they can expect, such as a follow-up letter or a phone call. Don't give them specific times of when you'll be contacting them, just in case something comes up and you're not setting their expectations too high, such as, oh, we'll be calling you Friday at noon. Definitely offer them a non-specific time range, such as, okay, we'll be reaching out to you within the next, 2 weeks, or, 24 to 48 hours, whatever the case may be. Definitely let them know what preferred method you will use, such as email or a phone call, and verify that you have the correct information for them, just so there isn't any discrepancies. Now it's time to go through all the different interviews, whether they were in person or on the phone, to select the correct candidate for hire. Of course, this is another lengthy process which can involve employee testing, profile setup, and even background checks. Know the candidate you want to select before taking them to the next lengthy step of hiring. Selection processes are not an easy task and can often take days or weeks to complete thoroughly. Sometimes this can scare potential employees away while others won't mind waiting. So definitely, keep in mind and make sure to give them as much information as possible in terms of how long they're going to wait. I think with that transparency, it definitely helps in terms of what to expect. Many companies require some form of testing to be done, whether it's written, skills, or even drug tests. Certain tests analyze a person's behavior and traits that you may or may not be able to gather from an interview alone. These tests often involve hypothetical situations and ask for a solution in the employee's own words. Standard typing and numeric tests are common in any job that utilizes a computer, but know that these tests are not always 100% accurate when analyzing speed alone. Look for number of errors and progress speed before accepting a result. Drug tests used to be only required for manager positions, but now over 90% of jobs require them, even for their entry-level positions. These drug tests can definitely vary, including alcohol, narcotics, and illegal drugs. So it really can depend on what positions you have open, so each department or job title can require a different test. Always looking for specific traits such as passion and enthusiasm are definitely two qualities that cannot be taught in the workforce. Some of these things, like passion and enthusiasm, are definitely something that when I say you, I mean the potential employee has within them. Sometimes the company can push out that passion and enthusiasm for that potential employee. It really, it comes from within. Background checks were originally voluntary and were not performed in many job positions, but they are included in almost all positions. They are a form of security for the company and help ensure the safety of the company's assets. Depending on your business type, and some events may need to be investigated before continuing the hiring process, such as felonies or misdemeanors. So you definitely, considering what the job entails, if there's high classified information, a background check might be ideal. Education and level versus experience. Resumes are not usually balanced in that the candidate usually has a longer job history or long list of education degrees. In some cases, job experience may weigh more than formal education or vice versa, depending on the position. So it's definitely something you want to consider. Is the education level, is it over or under? Does the experience trump that? Building a consensus. Even if you decide not to hire an applicant, keep their information on file with the company for a certain amount of time. An interview can collect several types of personal information, so the company may need to create a folder for each applicant to keep their information together in one place. Although they are not chosen this time, it is a good idea to keep these files on hand for the future. This falls under making sure that in case of an emergency hire, you have some people that you can reach back out to and see. But in terms of comparing notes and ratings, even though somebody wasn't hired initially, it's also good to kind of keep their information in on the back burner in case it may not work out with the person that you end up hiring. Now that we've made it through the interview process, it's time to consider making an offer. The job offer can be negotiable, but in the end, it is up to you who will fill that position. Now that you have your job offer ready, move quickly to offer it to the candidate and let them know they have been chosen. Time is definitely an important factor when making a job offer, bringing a new hire into the onboarding process. If the hiring manager delays too long to notify the candidate, they can often lose their first choice because the candidate may have offered somewhere else or decided to take the position elsewhere. Whomever the position goes to, the job offer process should be done quickly and efficiently to speed up the final stages of the hiring process. A job offer should definitely be a complete package, include the details of employment, such as job title, duties, responsibilities, as well as the salary and list of benefits. This package details should create a vivid picture of what is to be expected of the employee in the new job and what they can expect to receive in return. By leaving out certain aspects, you are misleading the candidate and not giving him the complete package. Notifying rejected candidates. This is probably one of the more harder parts about the hiring process. Some companies choose to omit this part, whether it is due to lack of time or simply the desire not to speak with a candidate. I think it is a great way to be courteous and just to let somebody know, because to kind of be left in the dark is, it's a bit underwhelming, where letting them know, hey, thank you for applying. There were other candidates that were met our qualifications a little bit better than you. Thank you for your time, and I hope you're successful elsewhere. I think giving them that respect and courtesy, and if feedback wasn't given in the interview, possibly giving them feedback at that time is also great as well. Definitely one of the great things about a job offer is that it can be negotiable and flexible depending on the company needs and employee needs. Seeing if they're flex scheduling, being able to see if they, with everybody slowly going back into the office, are they able to come into the office at some times or all the time? Would they prefer to work remote most of the time with the occasional coming into the office? I think trying to find that work-life balance, especially, with, single parents out there, I think it's a great way to look into and kind of be creative in terms of hiring somebody. The onboarding process. Now that you've made your selection and brought a new employee into the company, it is definitely time to begin the onboarding process by training, mentoring, and learning how well in their position can benefit as a company whole. Training and orientation. This is definitely, the company orientation is a process that is used to welcome and introduce the new employee to the company and what they are all about. It often reviews company policies, procedures, and outlines the role. The more prepared the employee feels in the beginning, the more likely they are to succeed later. It should always be remembered that no candidate is perfect and will always need some time to adjust in a work setting. So it's definitely good to pair a new employee with some guidance, either management, coworkers, or a variety of such, in order to understand their role in their company and how the team works together. It is also a good way to see if there is any progress or anywhere that is hindered in that sense. The 30, 60, 90-day reviews. 30 days, you want to review introductory information and gauge how they are adjusting. With the 60 days, touch back on what reviewed was from last meeting and review current progress and make goals for the next meeting. And then with the 90, see how they're completely adjusting to the position and if there is anywhere that needs tweaking. All right, and foremost, always making them feel welcome. Being a new hire at work can just be as terrifying as being the new kid at school, but having some sort of welcome wagon can help that transition definitely go smoothly and make the employee feel more at home. Employee retention is the goal and can be hard to do if the employee wants to leave as soon as they arrive. Definitely remind your current employees that the new employee is a person too, and not to treat them as just another set of job functions. Remember that hiring new employees can be expensive when you factor in the cost of interviews and training and supplies for them. So it is definitely important to focus on retaining the employee and trying to prevent them from leaving by making them feel more welcome. All right, so that wraps up my portion of the webinar. We will go to Q&A. Jackie, are you there?
We currently don't have any questions coming in, but if people have questions, they can certainly type them in the question box.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we can give it just a minute. Oh, we can still see your screen.
Oh, oops.
It's okay. Yeah, I think we could give it just a minute and see if there's any questions that pop in. And if not, I do think that you provided a lot of great information for the businesses in attendance, and I appreciate you taking the time to come and speak with all of us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. I want to thank everybody in attendance for coming today. Hopefully you got some good information to take out of this and bring back that you can apply in real time in your business. We will be sending the recording out within the next probably 48 hours once the recording is downloaded, and we will send it all out to you in an email along with the presentation documents that are in the handouts tab in case you had trouble downloading them. So we will include that as well. Be sure to check out our other Building Better Business webinar series videos on our YouTube channel. We will also have that link in that email. And just to note, we do have another installation of our webinar series coming up next Thursday on marijuana in the workplace and the new Connecticut law that recently passed. And we will be joined by CBIA to talk about how that could affect your business, and also background checks and some of the things that we talked about today. So I think they're very fitting and they kind of go hand in hand. So be sure to register for that if you haven't had a chance to yet. Joni, do you see any questions popping up or?
No, not yet.
All right. Well, I think that sounds good. If there are questions, you can feel free to reach out to us at Better Business Bureau. My email address is jknight@ct.bbb.org. You could always reach us on social media or on our website. So thank you again. We appreciate you joining us and have a great rest of your day.